Well, good morning, everybody. I had Adam here, and it seems like his Costa Rican power has blown up once again. So, Chris, me and you will start the show as well. Oh, Adam's back.
Bro, I was like, what the heck just happened, man? I was like, did Jake drop? I saw you drop off, and then I'm refreshing the page, and it's like,
your Twitter account popped off too. You're not on Spaces anymore. I just figured it was just your Costa Rican power blowing up once again, as it does once a week.
As is the custom on the moment we start a show. Oh man, it's awesome, bro.
You're all good, but man, what did you think about yesterday's show? I was actually pretty impressed with Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I connected him with Morgan as well about the mushrooms and all that sort of stuff, and it's super cool to always talk to people who are doing interesting things, and very interesting to me about his movement into like AI mining. That was like, I hadn't heard that one before, right? And so it's it's always interesting. You realize that they take a lot of bets and almost all of them are going to fail, right? And I get that vibe, right? You get that vibe. Like, okay, on Bitcoin, what's happening? All these L2s. I think somebody put out the other day, it's like, there's 30 L2s being proposed on Bitcoin. Guys, all those can't win. Like, it's impossible. There's no way. There's not enough eyeballs or interest, right? And so you just start thinking about, well, which ones are going to be the winners. And, he was saying development. I kind of agree with that. But you got to have users and interests, man. And so it's a battle for users right now, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, we could start off with that conversation because I personally think the battle's already over.
Wow. Let's hear it, dude.
I think Merlin and Stacks are already the winners. I don't know how much closer to competition you can really be because of two things. I know this is always a never-ending debate. We did this in the historical NFT community, right? What is the true definition of an L2? What's a side chain? What's a token? What's a blah, blah, blah? And it's going to, those friction points or that ideology is going to cause a lot of people to really lose out on what's happening. Although, Stacks is more of a quote unquote Bitcoin L2 than Merlin chain probably will ever be. But I think, sitting in these type of like philosophical or ideological kind of frames, it's going to really prevent a lot of people from having a lot of fun exploring. I mean, Stacks has been around for originally since 2017, then it rebranded to Stacks. I forget what I think it was called, like Block.
Yeah, Block.
Chris, do you remember what Stacks used to be called back in the day? And I think it was like Block Stack. I think
Block
it was
Stack,
called
yeah.
in 2017.
Yeah, it was called Block Stacks.
Yep.
And then it rebranded to Stacks 2.0 in 2021. And I even see a lot of people calling it out and saying, it's not a Bitcoin L2, it's a side chain. Technically, everything's a side chain from what I hear, because of how Bitcoin's built. But that's more in line with like the ethos of Bitcoin, because that's just like clarity programming language and proof of transfer, which is like its version of a mining kind of component. But Merlin has almost $2 billion staked already in these assets.
Doesn't make any sense, bro. Make it make sense, bro.
And I put this tweet out yesterday. Let's see if I could find it. I put this tweet out yesterday, which it seemed like a lot of the Merlin people agreed with, which of course, right? Because it's kind of like pumping their bags. But I said this. I said, the sheer cost of what it'll take, or the sheer cost and mempool space required to unstake 200,000 bitmap alone, on top of, tens of thousands of other assets, would take weeks to just unwind that in general because of like the limitation of block space. I mean, I think you can only have 3,000 transactions in a block in like high volume times. So you could say, maybe this would take like a week or two. But they also are creating something called M tokens, which is like the representation of your token on Merlin. So as long as there's liquidity there, I don't see why people would ever leave, right?
All right. So you got to give me like the high level overview. I'm sure there's some people like me in this space who are like, what the heck is this even? Like, how the hell did it get $2 billion? Like, walk us through this. What is it, man?
Yeah, so Merlin chain is built by the guys at Bitmap Tech, and Bitmap Tech is the people who built BRC 420. They also had built something called Recursiverse. I think that was their first project that they'd gone into, and then they built something called Bitmap.game. So they've been building Bitmap type assets for a long time, and their whole philosophy is similar in lines with like the gaming philosophy, where it's like there's no way you could do gaming. There's no way you can actually build a full encompassing bitmap world on layer 1 of Bitcoin, which I think most of us would probably agree with. So what they did is they got a bunch of backing by like OKX, and I think there's like 25 other VCs that have backed this, and they basically built a fork of one of the Polygon tech stacks. I believe there's 3 different L2 tech stacks from Polygon. So they basically forked it and created this like EVM layer 2 that is built for Bitcoin ordinal, or they say Bitcoin native assets. So right now it's catered towards, ordinal assets, but they'll add atomicals, and they're going to add stamps, and there's like SRC20 and all these like meta protocols that we discuss over time. And basically all you're doing is you're just taking these assets and it's getting pushed into a cold wallet, and then they're just going to issue tokens against it. And of course, that's where the big security risk comes in.
They're doing one multi-sig. I send my Bitcoin assets to this multi-sig, and then they give me something on the other side, basically.
So there's 2 things that are happening right now. Excuse me. One is that I think there's like 10 multi-sigs. If you go into, I got to find the original article. I think it's down here somewhere. Yeah. So it says here, we're excited to announce our Bitcoin layer 2 Merlin chain. It'll be built upon native assets, protocols, and products of Bitcoin layer 1. Of course, they're using EVM as the way to go about in building this, which is obviously if you're in a market right now and you're in competition of 30 other L2s, this is going to be the fastest to market. And so right here, they have plain in sight. I think this is their pinned post. SRC20, pipe, bitmap, atomicals, and it goes on and so forth. And they're building, just the standard things you see on an L2. There's a DEX called Merlin Swap. There's a staking protocol. There's a game called Bitmap War. And there's a lot of things that obviously don't make sense either if you're not technically sound or understanding of how these L2s work. There's something called an account abstraction layer that they're using called Particle. So when you tune in or when you plug in essentially to Merlin, there's two options, which probably most people have never seen before. You can actually sign in with a Unisat wallet, or you could sign in with your MetaMask. And people are like, well, how is that possible? And so I actually had to do some digging to really understand what was going on here. They use something called the particle network, which is a count abstraction layer, which is also something very new, which basically is like, Adam, what we talk about and what we talk about at Emblem Vault is like, how do you make this frictionless to where users don't need to know what chain they're actually interacting with? You just make it simple. And so if you sign up with, you could sign in with your MetaMask and you're giving something called the particle network, kind of like their EVM or their EVM version of a Unisat wallet. Or on the other side, if you sign in with Unisat, they give you basically a MetaMask extension.
Gotcha.
And so no matter which wallet you sign in with, you have essentially two. You have
Gotcha.
this like the original native version of whatever you're signing in with. Then they're giving you this like representation of the other one on the other side. And due to this account abstraction, it gives you two ways to go into or multiple ways to enter into this Merlin chain. And so for my example, what I did is there's now something called the Merl token, right? And it's actually going to be a BRC20, which people are going to be like, what the fuck does that even mean? So in order for them to onboard all of this volume, they announced that there was, I believe, 5 assets that you could originally stake with, which I need to find it here within their website. But you could stake with Bitcoin, you could stake with Bitmap, with Ethereum, with USDT, USDC, and I believe, and then all their BRC 420 assets. And so I pulled up here on the screen. You could see this was in the first day. There is 543 million in staked assets. But you see here is that only 210 million of that is Bitcoin. The rest of that is this like NFT kind of version.
Did you just say only 210 million? Bro, it's incredible, dude. It's incredible.
Well here, it's Chris and I were actually talking about this over the weekend when we were hanging out. Is the difference here, which is a little concerning, but it depends how they do it, is that usually when you stake assets, you're only allowed to stake fungible tokens. So when you look at like Arbitrum and the L2s on Ethereum, when you look at like Arbitrum and Optimism and even Stacks, right? Stacks has 65 million in staked TVL, but it's all from like Bitcoin and fungible like assets. Here, they're deriving most of the value from NFTs. And so if you're an NFT holder, right, if you're holding like Bitmap, to me, it doesn't make sense not to stake at this point, because if I'm going to stake 100, I staked 125 Bitmap so far, which is like 0.6 in Bitcoin. Of course, I'm going to stake 125 Bitmap versus actually putting 0.6 Bitcoin in there. That makes no sense. And at this point, like there's over 20% of all Bitmap staked. So if you're fearful that there's a hack, Bitmap's just going to implode anyways, right? So that's kind of like my philosophy there.
Is there any way I could short Bitmap? Is there a possibility?
I think one of their intentions is actually to build like a NFT derivatives platform for perpetuals, so you can go long and short. They're doing this on Blast, and it really a lot of this reminds me of just this like Bitcoin focused version of Blast, but of course you're using ETH2 kind of framework, which if you're going to do that, it makes sense, or else you're going to be like Stacks where you're still building this 4 years later and not getting that much adoption. And you're going into kind of the heat of the bull market now, or the early stages of the bull market, where airdrops are just going crazy. And so the whole idea with the staking is that you're going to get this Merl token, and there's 2.1 billion of these tokens, and the airdrop's going to happen in March, and then you can unstake these assets in April, is the quote and the claim. And Jeff, who's the founder of Bitmap Tech and the whole guy, front man behind this, he's gone on many of these shows and spaces, and he's been very clear about like what they're doing here. And I think just a lot of people are kind of losing out in this opportunity. Not even just gains, just seeing something kind of cool and innovative. Yes, it is the early stages, but just because, it doesn't, because it's an EVM that accepts Bitcoin assets, like, if you believe in this account abstraction world or this multi-chain thesis, like
What does
this
it
is
matter?
literally
Who cares?
this is literally going to be the best that you're probably going to get, at least now. That's kind of bridging both worlds together. And of course, it's still early, and yes, it's multi-segs or multi-party computation, all this different stuff, but you're not going to get a full, multi-chain Bitcoin ETH layer 2 out of the box. That shit takes a lot of time to build. And so you got to give them time. But I do understand the risks kind of behind it, which is like, if this shit gets hacked, everything is going to implode, dude. Not just Bitmap. It's going to, the whole ordinal ecosystem will fall apart, which I know a lot of people hate. But that just kind of like,
Why am I laughing at it? That's
you kind of, if you face reality, right? If you're just like actually look into it, like that's kind of the state of it. And so they're actually going to be airdropping in March 20% of the Merle token. And, if you're a degen, then you think, degen math, okay, 2.1 billion tokens. So to get a token to $1, the token price needs to be $1 per. And then you go and look at like Arbitrum and all these other ETH2s, and you realize they're all over like $5 billion, $10 billion. And they don't have as much TVL as they have here.
Yep.
And so I think it's a cool opportunity, but I'm more, of course we all want to make money and stuff like this, but I'm participating just because I want to see how this kind of multi-chain L2 really, really proliferates with Bitcoin assets. And so my last point is these things called M tokens, where I believe this was come out in a few weeks, you'll get something called like M bitmap. So I'll get 125 M bitmaps to do on the platform. And then these tokens, or the underlying tokens, just stay, or assets, I should say, sit in these multi-sig wallets or whatever they're building towards. And then you use the representation of that value on this layer 2 chain, where, to me, if even 50% of that value stays staked and people use these M tokens, then I don't see how any other L2 will really compete with this. They've captured the majority of the ordinal kind of community. I guess we'll see kind of what when they add like stamps and all these other ones, to see if they will also follow suit, or if it's just a bunch of ordinal degens who just want to play these like DeFi games, which, they actually have a token on there called Hoo, which is like the #1 meme token on there. And so they have something called Merlin Swap, which they've also announced that they're going to do an airdrop. And it's literally the same exact shit Blast is doing. I'm not going to lie. It's like almost the same exact thing that they're doing. And comparatively, they have pretty close the same amount in TVL, although Blast did just Ethereum, and here you have some of these other assets as well, but it's probably pretty close.
Well, we've talked about it before, and I love what Blast did. I thought it was quite brilliant, because they took this idea of, hey, if you stake your ETH through Lido or whatever service, you're going to get a return. So the return was understood, and they also understood that the individual kind of doesn't want to do it, but they gave this like on ramp to basically earn a return, and the return was actually well understood by the community. This is like, well, we're going to make new tokens and you're going to get rewarded in the new tokens and whatever. But they did understand one thing, which was basically people got these assets, bitmap and so on and so forth, for at or near free. Can't really do much with them other than sell them. And it actually benefits the community as well, because these are now locked up. So anybody who actually does want to sell is selling into a market that has less kind of bitmapped. It's a pretty genius strategy, I got to say. It's really smart, and we'll see how it goes, man. Because it does have the vibe to me of like, well, it's just minting new tokens on new tokens, and you get rewarded with tokens. But look, that creates an incredible FOMO ramp, especially with something that you can't really do anything with anyway. So like you said, why not do this? And now that they've locked up this massive amount of liquidity, it's man, it's incredible, dude. It really is. Wow. It's incredible.
I just think they set it themselves up to where, even if you wanted to unlock or unstake all of these assets, it'll literally take weeks to do. And so
Yeah.
at that point, you know how degens are in a bull market, weeks could literally be life-changing money. So
Totally.
why would you even try to do that and, try to get through the door on the way out when you still have the representation of that value sitting on that chain with potentially billions of dollars there. It's I think I think they've already won. I don't know. I can't see any other competition, and they're actually over 20x TVL of what Stacks has.
That's literally insane, right? To think about that. Munib building that thing for multiple years. Everybody knew about Stacks, but nobody really used it. And here, smart tokenomics and a team who can move fast basically overruns them in 3 weeks or a month. It's incredible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. What do you think, Dogfather?
Hey guys, yeah, just also wanted to chime in, but Adam took most of my points, so I just reiterate. I think taking like ordinary assets was a genius move and not just like fungible tokens, because I mean most of them minted them for free. So the 150 you, for example, bridged or staked. I mean, they cost you maybe $200 or so. And just mentally, I mean, mentally people have these $200 on their ledger, even though they're way more worthy right now. But still, they have the $200 and they like, okay, I put these $200 as chips on the table, even though it's like 150 times the current floor price at least. But that's how people think, and they understood that. And that's also how they can blow up the TVL numbers, because these 200,000 bit maps times the floor price, they look impressive, even though if the 200,000 come on the market, the floor price will be like a fraction of that. So it's very smart. Looking forward to what they're building. I mean, this is definitely the hardest chain at the moment.
Yeah, it's gamification. So and they've started adding new assets to start staking, and it's been interesting. Been following a few accounts who have been noting it. When you look at like the percentage of assets that have been staked on here, the highest is obviously BRC 420, which is from the creators of Merlin Chain, and then it's like bitmap associated assets, and then like they've added Goosenals and handful of other assets, and it's every
Goosenals.
Dmitry Cherniak's CCO thing that they created.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yep.
But it's really, and Jason said this yesterday from Soar Ventures, that Merlin Chain's catering to the East. It's like, it's not a Western thing.
That's
right.
It's
mostly Eastern people in Asia and Europe that are mostly playing this game. And if you've been following ordinals, like that's where the majority of the volume is. So if you're looking for volume and interest and speculation, then I think that's the chain that you want to go. We'll go to Chris.
Well, one sec. Maybe Chris can answer this. Maxwell's asking, what do you think about the airdrop from Merlin Swap, which is the Voya token?
No, is it? I thought
saw that too. I did see the Voya.
I claimed that today. I don't think it's the Merlin Swap's official token. I think it's just a token on their launch pad.
Yeah, it was like I thought it was their first.
It is the first one coming from them, but it's not the Merlin. Merlin Swaps also said they're doing their own token.
Bro, this is where honestly it loses me. But I understand degens love this shit. The more complex, the multi-layers of tokens upon tokens, fucking degens love that. Sorry, Chris, go ahead, man.
No worries. Good morning. First of all, great space yesterday. It was super cool to hear from Jason. So much good insight. If you haven't listened to that, go check it out. It was really, really interesting. Throw a like, throw a retweet on the room. That would be cool. Emblem Vault has really been crushing it lately. So show some love there. And then as in terms of Merlin and layer 2 on Bitcoin, it's just so funny how timing is so important. We tried this so many years ago, and you could have built a layer 2 from the ground up with the most, insane architecture, and nobody would have used it, and you would have gotten a ton of hate for it. Like Stacks alone got so much hate over the years.
Totally.
And now all of a sudden it's kind of like a golden child.
Totally.
And then Merlin comes in and uses kind of forked code, and now it's like the new shiny object that is like the all-star child in the entire industry. So timing is just so important. And also on top of that, just that like it is way too early to be calling winners, in my opinion. And like that TVL, as we've seen, is just not sticky. Like Blast came out in the last inning of Ethereum layer 2s and sucked up so much TVL.
Yep.
So I think it's just all a game. The liquidity isn't super sticky. And literally, kind of like what Jason said yesterday, there's 30 or 40 layer 2s launching every week or whatever it is. And it's going to be interesting to see who wins, but this liquidity is just going to shift from platform to platform for different token incentives. And so I think that this is just getting started.
Woohoo. Let's go, Flame. What's good?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me up. Appreciate the invite, too. I really appreciate your take, Jake, because, a lot of people have been fudding Merlin because they're afraid that it could get hacked and completely destroy the Ordinals ecosystem. But you make a good point. It's like, if that's going to happen, then why not? Go ahead and just do it. So I appreciate the counterpoint. It's definitely giving me some good food for thought. I'm also kind of wondering what's your take on, is it still a good time to do that? Like if you haven't dug into Merlin yet, is there still, does it still make sense to try to stake stuff? Does it still make sense to try to get some hoo-hoo or whatever the meme coin is, like bridge stuff over to Merlin? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the points that I've been getting has definitely been dwindling, even with the same amount staked, which means there's more stakers coming on. I had 50,000 points about a week ago, and now I'm at like 65,000 points. And that's what
was it updating like in real time, like every day it would update, or how would it work?
Yeah, it updates once every 24 hours, but they say that they're updating the points on the back end every hour or so, or every X amount of blocks. So it's definitely been dwindling as more money's been coming on. But I think what a lot of people are preparing for, actually, yes, the points are cool. It's almost like this like pseudo LST, liquid staking token, because they're going to deploy these M tokens in the next week or two. And you're going to be, getting points for this Merl drop, while you also have that value moved to then go play on Merlin swap or all of this. Like one of the leading speculations right now is, okay, who's that already claimed the lead as the top token on Merlin swap? It has, I don't know, $5 million market cap, but they're like, everyone's like, what happens once $1 billion gets M tokens, and now you have $1 billion in M Bitcoin, and only one swap,
Only one thing to buy.
one thing to buy, right? Like,
like there's the play, guys. That's the fucking alpha right there, bro. Is it really? It's only 5 million right now.
$5 million market cap. Yeah, it got up to like 10, and then it's like been consolidating. But that's the whole speculation, is once these M tokens come out, like there's only gonna be a handful of things to buy. So
all right, that sounds like a play that I'm interested in right there. I mean, if you're gonna risk a couple $1,000, if you can go over there and buy something at, what do you say, 5 million market cap, where $1 billion is going to be looking for a home in a month.
That sounds like some solid offer right there.
Flame, is that the play right now or what, dude?
I
don't know.
I put in about $500 into Hoo at like a $3 million market cap, and I was like, hey, fuck it, like this is the place to be. And I was also in the same spot where I put like, I think it was like 0.02 Bitcoin into like the bridge to then go claim these tokens on this other platform. And then I was like, well, I can't unbridge this for 2 months. I might as well just buy something on this platform. Like,
so for me to go over and buy Hoo, which is like the most ridiculous, which I love it now. I'm all in. What's the pain of me like bridging over and actually buying that token? How painful is this?
I actually didn't think it was that hard. I just bridged over. It was like 0.5 or 0.5 ETH or something like that. From MetaMask into the bridge, and then swapped it for their like S Bitcoin, and then you went and bought it. It was like 2 steps or 3 steps. I do have to say it's much.
Yeah, it's nice that. So I was just saying, it's nice that it's multi-chain too, right? Like you don't just have to bridge over Bitcoin.
I actually liked it better. Every time I try to go through Merlin chain, I just go through MetaMask because it's so much faster, so much more simple. Every time I've tried to do the Unisat stuff, it just becomes like a pain in the ass. It breaks, or like there's issues, or the mem pool is congested by the time that you bridge it. So then now your transactions behind all the blocks. Like it's just a pain in the ass.
I mean, I would feel like meme coins, if it's hard to buy, okay, there's going to be a friction there that's not going to allow that. But if you're telling me all this coin is going to get dropped and there's going to be no place for those people to spend it, Yeah, that becomes a much more attractive like option, I think.
Yeah, they said you can't unstake it until April, and then the Merlin token gets dropped in March. So there's going to be a month of probably Merlin token buying. Although Merlin's going to be a BRC20, so I don't really know. It's a little chaotic, but I'm here for it. I was like, this to me, it seemed like a play to not like this is a play you have to participate in if you're going to be a degen here, or if you inscribed a lot of these assets, because they're just going to keep adding staking for a lot of these different collections.
Incredible.
Yeah, fun times, dude. Fun times. Kind of moving on from the Merlin, even though there's going to be a handful of other stuff. One thing I haven't tweeted this yet, so I'll probably do it later. I always find it really interesting with how ordinals work and operate, where yesterday Mad Lads, which is like a top Solana project, started inscribing. And it's different from Solana and from Ethereum, where you don't have to mint the tokens until the project's ready to go live. Whereas here you have to inscribe the tokens before you even make an announcement. So it's almost like you're making this like grand entrance into the arena. And then obviously you get your inscriptions get amplified by Leo and Zach at or.io, and then everyone else starts tweeting it. And it builds this like natural kind of FOMO hype cycle where you're like, oh shit, the top Solana collection is moved over. And what's the speculation there? And then you get this like onslaught of ordinal people following the accounts. I don't know if that's it. It's obviously native to ordinals and to, I guess, like anything on Bitcoin, atomicals and stamps and all this stuff. But I don't know. I just found it kind of interesting. I did want to ask Chris, who's our friendly, Solana degen. What are your thoughts on Mad Lads coming over to ordinals?
Pretty big move. I think that it kind of just goes with the whole thesis, kind of like the tweet up top where Adam just said, Daniel Got Hits was talking about having a 33% mint across Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, etc. And just Adam, hit him with the completely possible on Emblem Vault. We tend to continue thinking that everybody wants to be on Bitcoin, and then everybody wants to use the attributes of all of the newer, faster, more aggressive chains, but they want the security assurances of Bitcoin. And so it's not a surprise that the trend is everyone wants to mint on Bitcoin. But then the next trend that we're obviously building for is that everyone wants to use those assets that they minted on Bitcoin in these new layer ones or these new kind of side chains, whatever you want to call them, through something like Emblem Vault. So I think that the trend is pretty clear. And I think it gets even clearer day by day.
Yeah, I agree as well. Just for a little background, can you just explain what Mad Lads is? I just know it's one of the top collections.
Yeah, Mad Lads is it's a 10K PFP project by Armani. He was like one of the developers at FTX. So super just kind of tech guy, really, really impressive background. And then they're building an exchange and a wallet called Backpack. And so Backpack is like a competitor to MetaMask or Phantom that has an exchange built directly into the wallet. And then obviously a lot of speculation that Mad Lads holders would get, a huge token airdrop for the upcoming exchange token and everything else. And so expanding across chain is pretty obvious move for them, as they're going to, have a multi-chain exchange built in. So pretty aggressive play, but they're kind of running the playbook themselves. They're really killing it.
I did see Backpack yesterday that you reminded me. It says, USA, welcome to Backpack Exchange. They're going live in 11 states. And then they actually dropped like an article that says they're going live in California, Colorado, right? Some of the Missouri, they got like Utah, Tennessee, a bunch of these things. So is Backpack, is it an NFT exchange or is it a cryptocurrency exchange, or is it both?
Yeah, it's a liquid token exchange, so fungible token. And the NFT is more of kind of what would be like BNB to them as of now, kind of like a multiplier, kind of a loyalty program in the sense. And then they would assumably drop the liquid token in the future once they get more chains and more protocols on board. But they have a serious team. They were US based. Regulation was too hard, so they moved out to Japan, and they've like really put together an incredible team, and they've been building like crazy.
Yeah, the exchange was pretty nice, at least from the UI that I've pulled up here. Adam, more tokens everywhere.
Tokens all the way down, bro. When you realize the future is all meme coins, then you fully grasped what's going on here. I mean, part of my thesis, and I've been, putting together some writings on this. It's like part of my thesis is that we're playing around. We're the first movers in the future of humanity with just this, this is the new money. And the way this money works, none of us know yet. We're all just figuring it out, and it's PvP, and we're dunking on each other, and we're rugging each other, and we're playing all these games. But it's really actually humanity just learning how to work with this new money. And I'm here for it, man. This is it's exciting stuff, dude.
One thing I've noticed from the trends, just remember that whenever a new ecosystem pops up, like whether it's a layer 2 or a layer 1, always go figure out what that first meme coin is. The thing is just a definite pump every single time. Remember when Friendtech deployed on base, and then there was a token called Bald that just pumped into like oblivion, then ultimately rugged everybody. But so you gotta remember what's going on there. Another cool announcement, which I'm actually a part of, which they haven't announced publicly yet, so I could say here. So the SRC20 Launchpad made an announcement I think it was last week or a few days ago. The SRC20 pad was actually put together by the Stamp Chain guys, so the actual developers, right? So Mike and I think his name is Rihanna, the guy who deployed Kevin. I think there's 3 of them. And Universal, who we've worked with on the Emblem side, are the guys who created Rare Stamp Marketplace. They created the SRC and Stamps Indexer, and I think they've done something else. They're creating a launch pad, which, is actually funny because there was like 4 Stamps launch pads that all announced within the same week. I was like, God, not enough launch pads. I'm actually going to be one of the advisors. This will be my first advisorship officially in crypto. I've denied many of them leading up to today. It felt like a very natural fit in terms of a product to be an advisor on. And I've been definitely talking with them about how to go about it. The launch pads are kind of tough. They're kind of, sometimes they're sticky. Sometimes they turn out very scammy, to say the least. There's a lot of credibility that relies on launch pads. Like, we were having this conversation in the advisor chat, like, what are users looking for in a launch pad, right? It's a few things. Obviously, token go up, right? It's like one of them. Another one is to share that credibility of the people who are backing the launch pad to ensure that this isn't going to be a rug, right? That's why launch pads exist. Binance famously was like the first one to do like the IEO, the initial exchange offering, after the ICO mania. And when people were like, okay, we can't just be buying white papers anymore. We need somebody's reputation and credibility to really start backing this, to ensure that there's some sort of vetting process. And so we've had this conversation. And so they're actually going to be doing a token sale for this. I don't think the date is announced, but I've talked with them. They've talked with regulators. I think the regulators are in Spain, and I've had a discussion on, like, what do you look for in a launch pad? I've kind of, shared some insight with them in terms of the Stamp ecosystem. It's still not really hitting, I guess. It's not really, like, the permanence idea has been working well. And I see that even Bitfinex started tweeting about Stamps.
Yep.
But it feels like the infrastructure is really, like, hit a delay. I haven't seen anything new really pop up anytime soon. I know, like, Stamped Ninja has really come out and kind of taken over Stamps after JDog basically kicked him off of X-Chain. But there's still a big friction point in terms of Stamps, of buying Stamps, right? And are they going to stay on Counterparty? Are they going to move away from Counterparty? There's like a lot of hard infrastructure that still needs to be improved on. And so I think the Launchpad, I had told them, I was like, you got to get infrastructure companies to come through this. If you look at like what Doginals has been doing, they're the first token DRC20 to go through the Woofy swap Launchpad was a wallet, and it sold out in like literally 30 seconds. And now they're doing a Dogecoin layer 2, which we'll talk about a little bit later, through there. And it's like, you just got to get infrastructure going through these. Nobody wants a game if there's no infrastructure for it to to play on. But Adam and myself, we've been to Stamps literally since there was 9 people in the Telegram chat. So we've kind of seen it all the way through. What are your thoughts on the Stamps ecosystem up to today?
Stamp has the unique challenge of, because of the impermeability, it's super expensive. Like it is, which makes it challenging from, what people expect, which is like a 10K. It makes it very challenging for like SRC 20s, because they're expensive. Like if we're dealing with, talking yesterday about, the East and the way they like fungible tokens. Well, if those fungible tokens are expensive, right? It's just, it has a very, very unique set of challenges. Not to say it can't hit, and not to say it can't even be bigger. Like if ordinals really had significant, challenges about being taken down and stuff like that, Stamps, I think, is the ultimate winner there. I don't think that's going to happen. So Stamps will always kind of be like a number 2 in my view. But it does have that kind of hard NFT value, which I think, so it's got longevity. But Stamps is always going to have this challenge of, just being costly. And I think that stops a lot of people from using it. Obviously we don't talk about it much, but what J-Dog did and kind of putting the kibosh on it there early, I think that killed a ton of momentum, and was really, really negative for Stamps, for gaining wider adoption. But surprisingly, it's still vibrant and has come up. Like Mike's been a great leader, I think, of kind of his trolly nature has gotten Stamps in the conversation. And I think it's been really, really valuable long-term for bringing awareness to Stamps. So, what Stamps' place is long-term, I don't know exactly, but I do feel like it's going to be here. But doing the things we were just talking about, which is creating interesting tokenomics for the creation of infrastructure, the creation of excitement. When you are advising these guys, I mean, you're perfectly positioned to give them good advice on how you can create excitement around what they're doing. And I think that's really important.
They picked a pretty strong advisor team, and the people building it, I don't think you can actually get much better than literally the Stamp devs,
Sure.
plus like one of the main infrastructure providers, plus a team of like myself, Viva, and there's a handful of other like notable Stamps community members that are participating, and we've been giving them advice on it. But ultimately, I keep telling them that it still runs into the same thing. How do you overcome the expensive fees, or how do you get infrastructure or people to come in and provide infrastructure? Obviously, like with these launch pads, generally what it is just like a crowdfunding platform, right? So you need to push something that's interesting that the community needs, a web wallet extension, a DEX, right? Some sort of there's a marketplace, or you get something that's DeFi related that maybe can pique some interest there, or something NFT related. It's just right now, it's just kind of like buy and collect. And how do you move past that? I mean, the ordinal space was in a similar position, I think, honestly, until really BRC20 came in and said, hey, we can put JSON files on top of these inscriptions. And that really opened up it's more than collecting.
Yeah, no, that put the gasoline on the fire for sure. 100%. I mean, look, it went from the names, right? We had the names, we had this, and it was just going, and then the BRC20 took, and it was just gasoline, right? And then the world paid attention. So yeah, I think, Stamps, that's probably passed it by. It probably doesn't have that opportunity. So maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something new that you guys come up with, or that somebody comes up with. Like, that's the thing. Like, somebody could just come up with something. But yeah, Stamps has a unique set of challenges. That said, I think it's here to stay. The core of Stamps is amazing. I mean, all you got to do is go in their Telegram. You see there's a core group of people that are, hardcore, and Stamps isn't going anywhere. But as you said, it's got some significant challenges.
And another ecosystem that took a real turn of recently, I haven't been able to dive into this yet, but Adam, maybe you have. The Inscriptions team has come out with their own NFT protocol. Although I kind of thought there was NFTs. I guess this is native to
Inscriptions are by nature their own kind of NFTs on chain. But this is like, let's take that and make it lighter with smart contract functionality. And yeah, I took part in the initial drop they did, just because
Oh, you did? Give me the explanation. I haven't really been able to dive in this. I know you stay on top of inscriptions a little bit more than I do.
So basically, they've created this. We know about Facet, and so they've basically figured out how to do smart contract functionality through Facet, and allowing people or enabling people to do NFTs, traditional NFTs. And so there was this from A to B, which I didn't realize. I thought it was going to be like unique punks. No, it's just it's a unlimited mint of whatever that is.
65,000 minted. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's closed now. I did not realize that. I still would have done it, but anyway, it was like, I think with gas and everything, it was maybe like between $10 to $15 to mint these things. Right. So I just got in there because I wanted to get, sub 1,000 or whatever. But it went, crazy very, very quickly, obviously. Then people figured out how to do it. And there's just this wave of NFT projects within a day. There were probably, I don't even know, 20 or more NFT projects. And so at the end of the day, my feeling right now currently is like, okay, they basically created a new NFT, protocol that basically takes away from Inscriptions, because if it's like, okay, my Inscription cost me $2, but now I can do NFTs on Facet, which are like another layer removed, and these are like 20 cents. Okay, well, what have I just done? And where's the community supposed to focus? So I think in a lot of ways, the community's almost been made more diffuse, if that makes sense. Kind of broadened, like, well, what is this now? How are any of these things going to have any value? It's unlimited. It's basically free mints. What happens here, right? When you have NFTs that are basically free and completely unlimited in a new protocol, what happens? And you just get waves and waves. It just feels like we're going to get waves and waves of NFTs that, what are they worth? Probably nothing. So yeah, I don't know. I minted some of those as well. The Wizards.
Yes, Wizards.
Yeah.
It always borrows from the other platforms. So like, it's like the top 10 collections you got from A to B. That was the original mint. Yep. Ethos Wizards, right, which is borrowing from Bitcoin. Tiny Dinos, which is actually being borrowed from Layer 0 collection. Then you have the Facet cards, which I'd minted a bunch of these in the beginning, actually. I don't know what Tuna Cat is, but you got here Bitcoin Wizards, Opium Puppets.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we see Nakamigos. It's the same thing we see in literally every single new Inscription like industry or market, is that they just start borrowing from everything. You get this insane derivatives kind of onslaught. Generally one derivative will win, if that. And then you have to wait for some creativity to come in. But
I mean, these, just so everybody don't, like, these can be NFTs with IPFS links. The image doesn't have to be on chain. So this allows, you can have metadata and all this sort of stuff is in a traditional, smart contract type functionality. I haven't dug in, and I think maybe we should have these guys on the show maybe next week to talk about it, so we can dig into, some details on how it works and stuff like that. But I think in a way it did kind of take away some, like, okay, Inscriptions are very cool because it's like, hey, these are on-chain NFTs on Ethereum. Very cool, right? And easy and cheap. This kind of, I don't know, makes that a whole nother layer higher. And it's like, well, who cares now? Right. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting, is like, well, who's going to care about this? For NFTs. I mean, I get Facet from like being a whole bunch of other things, but from an NFT perspective, it's going to have, I don't know the selling point other than just like basically free, cheap NFTs, which actually could be a nice, interesting narrative. Hey, you're on Ethereum, right? You don't need to go to Solana, and you can do Solana type mints, very inexpensive. Maybe they are able to lean in and get some traction there. But I think it kind of split the community a little bit.
I'm glad you explained that. I was wondering if it was like a closed ecosystem. So they really are leaning into this like alternative to layer 2. I forget, what did they call them? Layer 1 consensus or something like that?
I call them L1 plus.
L1 plus, that's what it was, an L1 plus. So it says, unlike, what to say, it's a pure alternative to layer 2 minting. unlike Facet, layer 2s can be shut down by their owners. And when this happens, all the NFTs minted on L2s are lost. I mean, that's true. The dangers of off-chain NFT metadata are well known, but you can mint on L2. It's not just metadata that can be lost, the token itself. And so I guess this is the narrative that they're running with for now, but we will need to talk with them. It's been a minute, but dude, they're fierce. Michael and Tom really coming after it. They really want to be this alternative to layer 2. I don't know. Do you think they actually could stand a chance of competing, or
Totally.
do you think they could capture mind share, I guess, and siphon, there's literally billions of dollars in these Ethereum layer 2s that they could siphon some of that attention away and funnel it.
Dude. I think they totally can. I mean, they're pretty good at marketing and bringing stuff forward. So, but I did, talk to them and I said, hey, you guys, if you do what Blast did and, do the staking reward, just copy that, that people don't have to leave Ethereum. I mean, you guys could lock up $500 million. I mean, I think they already have, I don't know, $40-50 million locked, but you guys could have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars if you did a similar kind of staking reward thing that Blasted. You could just copy that. And then that money comes into the ecosystem, and then you could do stuff which we just talked about, with rewards, dropping tokens within the Facet ecosystem. You could do this reward structure. I do, whether or not they move into some model like that, I think they have incredible opportunity to be the winner, honestly, in the L2 space. I think they could win.
L1 plus.
L1
What's
plus.
up, Chris? What you think?
Hey, so first off, I mean, this is a community space. So, if you want to join the conversation or anything, feel free to come up and join the conversation. High Roller said, talking a lot about ETH and Bitcoin on ETH, ready for Bitcoin season 2. And so for the longest time, the general consensus was that most things would be attracted to Bitcoin over time. All things would kind of be built somewhere else and then rebuilt on Bitcoin once they found, that they have staying power. And basically everything would always kind of end up on Bitcoin. And then there was this weird transition where these maxis were just like, didn't want to change anything, didn't want to import anything on Bitcoin at all. And it kind of like killed the entire culture of innovation. And then now Bitcoin season 2 is actually the realization that all of these things that were built somewhere else are actually going to really be built on Bitcoin. And so a lot of these blueprints have been done on Ethereum. So looking at, all of the success that Ethereum has had, and then now bringing that over to Bitcoin is literally what Bitcoin season 2 is. So it's an important learning curve of taking everything that has worked and just fast forwarding it on a way stronger chain.
Yeah, I couldn't agree any less. It's and in Bitcoin season 2, it's all the experimentation that's happening right now, right? Is it completely Bitcoin native? Is there some sort of component of an off-chain layer? Is there a component of using Ethereum, right, or Dogecoin, or whatever the kind of idea is? So we're all just throwing around, and that's probably what this entire cycle will be, honestly, with Bitcoin being kind of the center of it, but more that it'll have to be experimentation. We don't know what the users want. I think some people are really just, some collectors, right, are just pro Ethereum, and Ethereum will catch a wave once that ETF or the signal towards that ETF being approved comes, and you'll probably see the same thing happen. But to me right now, it seems like Bitcoin's probably going to go through, or at least Ordinals is going through a little bit of a correction, actually. Most of the assets are quite down in terms of market activity. So it's time for builders to come in and start providing more things other than just, I guess, pre-rune copy pasta token mints.
I feel like we know exactly what the users want. The users want, different kind of wallets, more interactive wallets. They want art on their home chain. They want, different token incentive programs. I think it's very clear what they want. And I think that importing all of those things from basically Ethereum and Solana and anyone else that has ran that playbook, now it's Bitcoin's turn. And I think it's very clear what all the users want.
They want runes.
They want runes, man. What's happening with somebody? Give me an update on like how many different runes there are. What's actually happening with runes? Maybe Dogfather could chime in and give me the runes update.
If he's there,
Dogfather, you there, man?
He might just be
Oh,
coasting.
go ahead. Yeah, there we go. Anti-cheat. Go
What
ahead.
are we looking for
Oh,
specifically?
hey, what's up, guys? Anti-cheat. First off, just wanted to say thanks for thanks for having me up here, and it's great to just learn, because I thought I was into Bitcoin, but just hearing you guys talk about all these different side chains and different stuff going on, it's all new to me, so it's definitely interesting. But I've been following runes. Just because I've been getting airdropped a lot of runes, type of stuff, but I I feel like R6, the R6 boost, just got a rune airdrop. I'm not really sure what it's called. It's some kind of miner program, but I've not been farming any runes, and that's really all I have to say on it. I think Casey is basically he's deciding whether he wants to hard code the first 10 runes, and that's really going to decide, I feel like, how the opening market for runes starts, and if he decides to do it versus if it's all these community-led projects, it's really going to be a big decider. So that's my off.
Yeah, I've seen now. I think there's like close to 5 to 10 different projects. The biggest, obviously, the biggest trend with runes is the RSIC, where it's like you get this inscription that represents a mining rig or an ASIC rig that mines these, theoretical runes. Although the runes is still, largely undetermined. Although Casey said he's probably going to do some sort of gamification around the first 10, because he's probably also upset of the RSIC deployer, which I think we all know who it is, of saying that he was going to be the first runes. And this is Casey saying, aha. I think there's some drama behind the scene that's kind of related to that as well. But if you look in like some of the other projects, there's a few runes swap or runes AMMs that are going to surface here. You have Rune X and Rune Alpha, I think, are the two that have been building already for, I think Rune X started building their platform like last year. Like it was like around the time, or Dante and Rune X, and they're doing those like box drops. Then there's Rune Alpha, which I believe is like kind of the Eastern kind of version of that. And I do know of a few other people who are also going to put their hand in the ring here pretty shortly. And so I think that'll be interesting, actually, is to see who's going to be the winning infrastructure provider. Is it going to be somebody who already is king, right? Like OKX or Binance come in and they're just gonna, maybe they're building behind the scenes and they come in and deploy on that time.
That would make sense. That would make sense. Like if it's being being built right now, kind of behind the scenes, that would make sense.
Is it Unisat who's going to come in? Right, they obviously begun losing a lot of their market share with BRC20. Just people have stopped using it as much. Some of it's locked up and staked. Right, they added Atomicals. I was actually looking at Unisat's Atomicals marketplace. There's been literally no activity. I know they've had some VC funding, but right, are they building runes behind the scenes? Right,
I thought Atomicals was the new alpha. What am I? No, it's impossible to keep up. Like I honestly, this is like my brain is frying. Like I'm just like, what? Atomicals. What happened?
Atomicals, yeah. What's up, Anti-Cheat? What do you think?
Did we have Atomicals on like a week ago, and I was all bullish on Atomicals.
We'll cover that here in a second. Go ahead, Anti-Cheat.
Yeah. So my bad. I desperately needed a drink of water, which I just got. All right, cool. So I think that with runes, the RSIC thing was really like they were like first movers to the market. And they really had a very like deep gamification system that drew a lot of people into their ecosystem just off the bat. And off the success of R6, like I feel like there's been a lot of derivatives, such as like I think the Rune Guardians, and then yesterday Rune Mania Miner got airdropped to everyone who held a R6 boost. And so although like I see Binance and like Unisat, especially with like already going not only because of runes being funded, but also just based off of like all of these different meta protocols that have been being built on Bitcoin. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Sideboard protocol and like these other like token NFT derivatives on Bitcoin. And because of all of that, I feel like a lot of OG holders of Ordi and like the people behind Unisat really started to get scared and build and wanted to build something like Atomicals, and that's really where that all came out of. So I feel like what I'm really trying to say is it all really culminates into runes, because as like Casey said on the and the Hell Money podcast, which I've watched for all my runes alpha, is probably like the best source of information on it right now. And just from that, I've gathered that it's going to be very easy to use, just because it's going to be UTXO based, in the same way that you can sell and buy inscriptions on Magic Eden. You'll be able to sell and buy runes in a very similar like fashion, just signing simple messages with your wallet. And whoever ends up being the first mover to that market, whether it's Casey hard coding the first 10 runes, or Binance or Unisat coming in, or maybe one of these community projects, whoever it's going to be, they're definitely going to print a lot of money just based off of the valuations that you see in BRC20 and like other token market caps. Like I think BRC20 hit $4 billion market cap at some point. So the demand is there for sure.
Yeah, I don't see how Runes doesn't just completely annihilate that. Just come out of the box immediately at $1 billion. So just all the speculation. You're also like kind of pre-capitalizing some of these communities. I saw like the market cap for RSIC, for the RSIC protocol or meta protocol is at like 80 million. And there was like a few others that I saw somebody list, and it was like already over $100 million in these like pre-runes kind of protocols. Adam and I talk about this for a lot of like, will that value actually transfer over, right? Some of that value gets lost generally when there's like this like migration. That's basically what it's doing, right? They're migrating this capital from ordinals to runes. Does that follow? Do other people ape in? Do people immediately sell it after they've been, just tired of dealing with it? It'll be interesting. But outside of the RSIC kind of, outside of like the RSIC mining for runes, I don't think I've seen any other projects pop up yet outside of just like these people who want to be the decks for it.
Bro, if we're a year away from here, so we're in whatever, 2025, February of 2025, what's still standing from all of this? What do you think, man?
BRC20 and runes for sure.
Yep.
I think stamps and SRC20 will still be around. Counterparty, I think Counterparty is going to really come out of nowhere once they get PSBT support and once they start adding all this different stuff. How long that takes, I think, is still to be determined. I did see Adam and Joe come out and say that was like one of the things that they wanted to focus on. Although I know from like the discussions I've had with people, that's not as easy as just adding PSBT support like they do for ordinals. There's still a lot of stuff they have to work through. But I think you'll see a return of Counterparty by some point next year if they can get that PSBT support listed, because then you'll see it get listed. Then you'll see it get added to like Magic Eden and all these different platforms, and you'll see native trading. Although, what does the community want, right? Because for example, with Counterparty, you have 25,000 Counterparty assets in vaults, right? Do people still want to trade on ETH? Do people want to go trade PSBTs natively? Do they still want to deal with the block space? So it's still largely, I think, undetermined. Outside of that, I don't know which ones. I think there will still be some around. The CBACRC guys there, they got a diehard cult going on over there. I don't know what's gonna go on, but there's a few other ones that I think I'm missing as well. But I think BRC20 is definitely gonna be here to stay. I think people will be surprised. I think BRC20 is actually going to fight for its life against runes. I don't think it's going to be an easy thing as runes coming and overtaking it. Yeah, maybe flip it at some point in time. But you got the East, as again, right? Like Jason said, the East loves BRC20. They're the ones that are in the driver's seat when it comes to the capital flow. They love fungible tokens, and even said runes is going to be more of a West thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, how many thousands of people were able to get BRC20s for, the price of the inscription, right? And so you have this like base of bag holders, right, who aren't just going to give up the bags, right? And if they can go into, runes, okay, but it's like you're trying to grow a whole new group of people in runes, and how Casey, drops those first 10 tokens. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, he's smart. He may be able to do it in a way that's super attractive and attracts those tens of thousands of people, but certainly not guaranteed. That's for sure.
I do think that Runes is already being hyper commercialized to this degree where it's not going to have a strong cultural layer. I've said this a lot for like many years, but culture exists in the absence of wealth. And if you're coming out of the box with a market cap of 500 million or more, there's not a lot of time for it to build culture because it's just going to be hyper focused on accruing capital. And BRC20 had that 6-month period of building a community, building native builders. But if you have if OKX or Unisat comes out and they already commoditize the swaps of runes, and I think people will just go back to BRC20, or the East just says, hey, why would I want to participate in this when we already have our own thing over here? So we'll be kind of interesting. What do you think, Flame?
I think you have a good point, and I think Casey's being very, very careful about runes. I mean, I was in San Francisco over the weekend for an IRL event that was put on by Bitcoin Magazine and Super Chief Art Gallery and Cypherpunk's lab, which is part of the Neuro realm, that Neuro and Eloc are doing. Both really great guys and both really brilliant people. And they did a live episode of Hell Money podcast with Casey and Aaron on the first night. And Casey and Aaron just flat out told everybody, like, don't buy runes. I think, partly as their responsibility to not to give anybody any financial advice, but also just to let people know, Casey's doing this to do it because he sees an inefficiency and he wants to create an efficiency to correct the inefficiency. But he's not telling anybody to get invested or involved. He's basically just trying to make the first 10 hard-coded at fair mint as fair as possible. And after that, it's like hands off for him. He just wants it to work well. He wants it to be a good protocol that is efficient, but he's not trying to tell anybody how to get involved. So, or whether or not to get involved. So I think that's incredibly responsible on his part. I know he also doesn't want to go to prison. I don't think he will. He was joking that he was worried. But, I think it's going to be like anything that's new in the space where there was a lot of hype behind it. I think we're going to see a lot of action early on. I think it's going to drive the mempool crazy, along with everything else that's going to be happening around that time, the race for the Epic Sat. All the stuff that Leonidas and Trevor have been talking about at length. And I think there's going to be a few that have a use case that stand the test of time. And I think the rest are all just going to be, kind of like the altcoin boom back in 2017. We're going to see a lot of stuff pop up really fast. A lot of people are going to scramble and a lot of degens are going to try to secure their bags. But at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff's going to fall by the wayside, I would think, pretty quickly, and it'll be very PvP, similar to what we saw with BRC20s, but I do have faith in runes as a means of, creating an altcoin standard for Bitcoin. And I also do have faith in the longevity of BRC20 just because I believe in Domo and what he's doing. And, I don't know what the actual alpha is, but I know that Domo is still hard at work trying to make sure that BRC20s stay relevant. So I don't think that we're going to see either one of those fade out of existence anytime soon, but it will be interesting to see which ones, are able to stand the test of time. But ultimately, I wouldn't fade Casey. I wouldn't fade Domo. I would just be cautious about throwing any amount of serious capital at anything right away, unless you're also planning, unless you also have an exit strategy, for what it's worth. And a little side alpha, I do think Bitcoin Art House, Rare Skrilla was at this event, and it was really cool to get to meet him in person. For people who don't know, he's a Rare Pepe artist, OG, goes way back. Also just a really cool guy, super into Grail hip hop. I call it Grail hip hop. It's, you know, like all the best stuff from like now back to the 90s, whatever. Like
The
he was spinning.
the underground.
Exactly. He was spinning that stuff 2 nights in a row at this thing. So there's a little more alpha for you, you know, like hit up these IRL events. You never know what's going to happen. I got a card, like a physical card, a Mona Lisa Pepe card from Nardo while I was there. It was insane. The whole event. But I know that BitGod and Lendoka are really excited about what they're going to be doing with Bitcoin Art House. And I know that Rare Skrilla, I'm pretty sure he's going to be the first artist to drop there. So I would keep an eye out for that. I got to talk to Starlordy for a minute. I think he's really working hard to make sure that the Oniforce drop on Bitcoin is going to be of value to people. So I am looking forward to that. And there was one other thing. I mean, just keep an eye on everything that these guys are doing. Honestly, they're all like coding around the clock and trying to continually deliver value to ordinals. So the innovations, you know, the urge and the drive and the ambition to bring innovation to ordinals is continually flowing. And it was just amazing to watch a lot of it live. I mean, I saw Butoshi create an AI chatbot using like a minute and a half's worth of data to model the voices of Rick and Morty. And they sounded pretty good, right? And it wasn't just a chatbot where he could converse with Rick or Morty. He was able to create a chatbot where Rick and Morty could talk to each other. And he did this in he coded his butt off for like a whole day, but like he slammed this together in a short period of time. I mean, it's wild what these guys can do. And Eloc was like helping people inscribe stuff the whole time. It was just crazy. It was like this combination between an IRL art event and like live coding and inscribing. And everybody was super cool. It was a really nice thing to be able to go to. And yeah, if I wish I could be at the one in ETH Denver, to be honest. The Ord Denver event, I think, is going to be equally cool. I know Jen, she's organizing that. So as far as the alpha there, I would follow her. I would follow CB Spears. I know there's a get together on Wednesday night next week for Ordinals people. And then there's a whole like long drawn out event that spans from Thursday all the way into Saturday. And I know Jen's a big part of organizing that. And I know Bunzi is throwing a party at a mansion. It's going to be pretty
expansion, bro.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty involved for everybody.
Yeah, we'll be actually releasing. So if you didn't know, I was actually part of the original OmniSat team. We'll actually be releasing more information on OmniSat as the next update. So stay tuned there. I think Domo will actually be making an appearance. There'll be a lot of people there. From the OmniSat side, we've been working with Domo literally side by side for months at this point, trying to get it up to speed with BRC20. So we're almost there for OmniSat mainnet. There's just a node system that we have to do. So will be exciting times. That was literally all the alpha there. I do know Skrilla will be the first 100s from the art house. They've already inscribed the 100 art pieces. So you could go look. I think if you just go look through or.io, you could probably find the wallet that has all the artwork from Skrilla. It is really dope. It's all hand-drawn stuff. And Skrilla is the man. So
totally. Last thing I'll say, I actually watched him paint Rare Pepe art on the side of a case of Stella Artois. And I just kept bird dogging it to see if somebody was going to like walk out of there with it. Dude, like, I don't know how you frame a case of beer, but like, honestly, I've never wanted to like five finger something more in my life. It's so cool.
That's fun. What do you think in anti-cheat?
Yeah, I just wanted to just jump off a couple of Flames' points because I found them pretty interesting. One is just that, like, I wanted to echo the sentiment that, you know, Ordinals is just starting right now, and things are just they're just being built like right in front of us, and I think that's just amazing. Especially like following things that like Casey's doing. Like I've been following Ordinals since like Udi was like talking about it in like February, just like a couple of weeks after like Casey launched the the protocol, and it was really like just insane to see all these like communities like build up around early inscriptions, and even Emblem Wallet. Like I've known about Emblem Wallet for like a long time, but really like my first time using it was because of ordinals. And like just trading Bitcoin punks on Ethereum because there was no marketplace on Magic Eden yet. So it was just crazy to just like see all this stuff being built and to like use it firsthand. And throughout the last year, and I feel like even getting into BRC20s early, like I'm more excited for like what runes are doing. And like Flame said, like Casey's just building a more efficient version, because like I'm still very bullish on BRC20s as well. And like it seems like you guys know Domo very well. I've only really just seen him on the timeline, like when he was releasing all of his stuff, and I thought it was really cool. But it is like a little like inefficient, because like now I just have like a bunch of like inscriptions in my wallet that I can't spend but are just kind of like transfers. So like I think what Casey's doing is just like a more efficient version of what BRC20s are. And I definitely do believe that both of those ecosystems can flourish. But it's just like a great time to be in ordinals. And I'm very happy to just like, be here learning about the space, educating myself, and just like seeing all this like stuff being built. It's really like, what a time.
Good, Flame.
Just really quick, I'd be remiss to say this if I don't want to forget, but I do have the privilege of also having a platform to help people get the word out about stuff. I'm not going to show that space on your space, but my DMs are always open. So anybody, including everybody here on stage and in the crowd, like if you have stuff that is being innovated on any chain, the show's not chain agnostic. I am very keen on helping developers, coders, artists, builders help spotlight their stuff. I think that's incredibly important. We've got to help people get the word out. So my DMs are always open. Please feel free to hit me up anytime. I'd be happy to help you figure out how to make that happen. And again, I really appreciate everybody here that hosts this space, because you all are, also bringing so much value to the space. I mean, Jake, Adam, Chris, everything you guys are doing, it has really enlivened not only ordinals, but just the space in general. And so I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the work you're doing.
I appreciate that, man. It's a really exciting time. We've been at the forefront of the entire Inscription craze. I mean, Adam, myself, and Leonidas had interviewed Casey 3 months before Ordinal's mainnet had even launched. So we've been here literally since before even mainnet. And to just participate with it through Emblem Vault and now just through general interest, it's really, really exciting. Before we do close up the space, Adam, I do want you to give us an update on Bell's Coin, as you are the meme overlord of Bells and Bell
the moon, baby.
What is going on over there? I read recently there's like some sort of upgrade that's happening now.
So
I know.
Yeah, the devs are working, and we're actually in negotiation with some mining companies to basically to do the upgrade, which would be merge mining with Dogecoin and Litecoin. So this would be kind of the big thing, which is like merge mining. So it protects the chain kind of indefinitely. And that would also speed up how quickly the blocks are produced. Should be at a block a minute. Right now, we've literally had blocks take 3 hours to clear, with literally hundreds of thousands of transactions in the mempool. So speed that up, get it to its real speed, and along with that, put in this thing. I think it's called DigiSeal or something like that, which would adjust the block difficulty every single block. Right now, it's on the original like hard-coded version, which is like it updates like every 200 blocks, which is terrible when you have this huge amount of hash power and then the hash power drops off. And so we basically get this stuck block scenario. So those 2 upgrades, we're hoping by the end of this month will actually happen. And once that does, it's going to be the baddest ass meme coin chain on earth, bro. It's going to be epic. So we'll see if it makes it there. If it makes it and we are able to do it, then we got something to talk about if it doesn't die before then, but fingers crossed.
Hey, we got a 10K Bells Coin PFP project collab with Viva called Emblem. Make sure you check that out. You could buy it on OpenSea. We have more for that to come during another show. But I appreciate everyone who came on, man. Always a fun time to do these community spaces, just going back and forth with all of the different inscriptions markets. You know, it's something that's only going to continue to grow, as we've been saying since early last year. Once we saw stamps and all the other things start popping up. Really exciting. Make sure you pay attention to it. And I feel like the infrastructure around all of it's going to surely appreciate by the end of the year. Make sure you follow Adam, myself, and Chris, who work at Emblem Vault, the leading cross-chain NFT protocol in the industry. Make sure you follow Dogfather and Anti-Cheat and Flame, who came on stage and provided incredible insight. Tomorrow we'll be back talking about Doginals. We didn't even cover it today because there's a lot going on in that ecosystem. A lot of interest. Even Jason Fang yesterday at Sora Ventures said he was super bullish on Doginals. So a lot of stuff happening over there. And then until then, everybody enjoy your Wednesday, and we'll see you back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time.